Yotto is a really famous melodic house producer, but not all his tracks are really chill as melodic house. Instead, some of his tracks are really dark and have a really aggressive club feeling. And in today's video, we are covering the top 5 reasons why his songs are so aggressive, so you can start doing that to your own tracks as well. But before we begin, let me know over here in the comment sections below, which is your favorite track from Yotto. Now, let's get started with the video and let's get started with this tutorial. Let's go. One thing that you can instantly hear in Yotto's tracks is that they're really aggressive and they're really club driven, which you can listen over here in the song called Rhythm of the Night. Really aggressive, really bass driven, but even in his chiller songs, the song's still really club driven, as you can listen in the song called Just Over. Still really aggressive and really peak time for melodic house, and that happens for a few reasons. First of all, Yotto doesn't use much organic percussions and they're really a bit more aggressive. For example, you don't hear that kind of percussion over here in Yotto's track. No. Yotto's tracks are a little bit more aggressive and instead they sound a little bit like this. And this contributes for the energy of the song. So instead of using shakers, they use 16th hats over here to do the 16th note. Instead of using shakers as hats, he uses open hats or even rides to complement the rhythm over there. And in addition to that, the clap that he uses are normally really aggressive, sometimes even being a snare, as you can listen over here. And you can listen to that in the song called North by Yotto as well. It's a different rhythm, but it's the same elements that we've just seen. Second, Yotto's leads are really prominent in the mix, sometimes even taking a big spotlight in the song. Listen, for example, to the song called No Ending. This kind of really aggressive and ravey lead just gives a little bit more energy to the song, which is again a little bit away from the chill melodic house that we're used to in Ben Bomer, for example. And third, and most importantly, Yotto's tracks are really bass driven, and to me this is the thing that makes his tracks so amazing. So let's go to our second point in this video, which are the really prominent bass lines that he has. Yotto's bass lines are really aggressive, and that just contributes to that club vibe that he normally has in his songs. Listen, for example, to the song called Tied to You. The bass is really prominent in the song, and it's not because it's a plucky bass that we have that aggressive vibe. We have the same kind of vibe when we listen to some rolling bass lines, for example, in the song called Out of Reach. And again, the kind of bass lines is not only what explains why his basses are so aggressive. First, if you listen, for example, to the song Tied to You again, listen over here while looking at the spectrum and see how loud the bass is in the mix. They are really loud in the mix, and essentially the bass line is even louder than the kick itself, and that's the first reason why Yotto's bass lines are so prominent. Essentially, they're really loud in the mix and they're really well mixed as well. The second reason why Yotto's bass lines are so aggressive is because of the elements that he uses along with the bass lines. For example, over here in Out of Reach, listen how he uses a brass tab to complement the aggressiveness of the song. Essentially, Yotto is using a brass tab just like this one that you can see it over here. And you can see many other brass tabs tutorial that we've just done over here in the top right corner. But essentially, these elements complement the aggressive kind of vibe, and they also introduce a darker kind of vibe that suits really well for clubs as well. In addition, sometimes Yotto introduces leads to complement the vibe of the bass line as well, as he also did in the song called Tied to You. You can see that the song started just the bass line, but as the song progressed, he adds a lead in the song that essentially contributes to the groove and the vibe of the song and just makes the whole thing really nice to listen to. The reason why Yotto is doing this is to create movement in the bass lines, and essentially that's something that you should be doing on your tracks, essentially to make them more interesting and have the bass line move along the way and not make it so repetitive, which can sound a bit boring sometimes. So in addition to having the right kind of bass line, always pay attention to the levels that you're leaving your bass lines and also the elements that are contributing to make that bass line even more aggressive. But the bass lines are not the only reason why the songs are really club driven, and that takes us to our point number 3 in this video. Yotto has some really cool leads, but essentially they're really simple and really easy to do. Listen for example to the song called Out of Reach. And if you listen to the lead alone, it's a really simple lead that essentially just repeats itself. And the pattern repeats in other of his tracks as well. If you listen, for example, to the song called Group Love, you're gonna notice that the simple, short pattern of leads repeat itself. But Yotto also has some longer progressions, as in a song called Odd One Out. Even though it's a longer progression, it's still a simple progression. But essentially, what he mainly does in his tracks are short and simple progressions that repeat and repeat over time. Listen, for example, to the song called Another Reef for the Good Times, and you're gonna notice the same pattern over there. And the sound design of these leads are not so complicated. And then you can ask me, but Leo, how does he make the song interesting if the sound design and the lead are not complicated? Well, essentially, I've noticed a couple of things that Yotto does to his leads to make them more interesting over time. First, you can listen that he either opens the cutoff or adds a new element to add a bit more energy in the lead, as you can listen still in the song called Another Reef for the Good Times. Sometimes he adds leads as second leads, as you can listen in the song called This Feeling, but notice how he adds a chord progression as the second lead over there. And sometimes on top of all that, he adds some vocals to complement the second lead. And lastly, another thing that I've noticed that he does, sometimes he has a progression that he starts with, as you can listen in the song called No Ending. But in the middle of the song, he changes the progression a little bit just to give an extra spark to the sound. Essentially, everything that he's doing over here, he's doing to create movement in the leads, the same way that he did movement in the bass lines, to make the song always progress and always grow and always keep that aggressive kind of vibe that is really suitable for clubs. But that's not all that Yotto does to complement and evolve his tracks, and that takes us to our fourth point in this video. In addition to all that, Yotto also uses a lot of ear candies as a way to lift the energy of the song and also to fill the gaps of the songs as well. First, a really cool element that he uses are pads, and essentially the one that he uses in the song called I Want You is really cool. Listen, for example, over here. Really in the background, instead of being a sustained pad, is something that does like a fucka, almost as a 16th note. And that's something that you can do to your songs because they add a lot of rhythm as well. If you look over here in Ableton, essentially it's the same thing as you would do as pads, but you just play them as 16th notes over here. And these add a lot of energy to your songs. Second, another thing that Yotto does in his songs is add a lot of random synth shots and synth melodies that complement the main melody of the song, as you can listen in the song called Buggy with Lane 8. These act as call and response for the main lead, and essentially they just complement and give a really nice vibe to the main lead of the song. The third thing that I see Yotto doing as ear candies is just adding some random background noises, as you can listen in the song called North. You can hear some wow, and a really cool way to do this, essentially, if you look over here in Ableton, you can pick a piano sample as this one over here, reverse it, and add a lot of effects into it. As you can see it over here, I'm adding a lot of reverb and also a lot of delay and also low cutting it. And this just adds a lot of background. It is just really cool to make it in your songs. But in addition to melodic elements, the fourth ear candy element that Yotto adds in his songs are just some vocal phrases, as you can listen to the song called Just Over. This is the same thing that Nora En Pure did in her track called Come With Me. And you can listen further on in the song that he also adds some vocal shouts, as you can listen over here. And as I've shown in the video about ear candies that I've just posted recently over here. Notice how they're not only sustained, but they also syncopate, and that's really cool to add a little bit of groove to the song. And the reason why you should be doing this to your song as well is because they lift the energy of the song, and they also complement and fill the gaps where otherwise would be a little bit empty. And essentially, that's all to make the song develop and grow, which takes us to our last point of this video. Since Yotto's songs mostly focus on dance floors and club vibes, they always need to keep on growing and they always need to keep on developing, otherwise people in the dance floor can start feeling bored. Essentially, he adds all the elements that we've just mentioned to make the song less repetitive and in the end more interesting. For example, if you see a development of a song from Yotto, listen for example to the start of the drop 1 and listen how simple it is.
But it's alright, 'cause it keeps me dreaming.
The aggressive elements are already there, but everything is kind of filtered and kind of chill. But now listen to the middle of the drop 1 and see how everything is a lot more aggressive over there. You can start hearing the brass stabs, you can start hearing the leads, and even the ear candies coming through a lot more. And that essentially just makes the song a little bit more energetic. And after that, he goes to a break, and then he goes to the drop 2. And listen to the drop 2 and see how it's even more energetic than the drop 1. In the drop 2, the leads are more prominent, the percussions are more prominent, and essentially that gives more energy to you. And for the dance floor, that is crucial because you always need to keep the people dancing and entertained, otherwise they're gonna start feeling bored. So in addition to pacing your song well to make it grow and make it interesting along the way, don't forget to choose the right elements to convey the right kind of vibe, as I've just mentioned in the video about the rules of Melodic House. Now, if you want to make your songs a little bit more aggressive as well, I highly recommend you checking the video that we've just done for Anima, which essentially shows some tips that you can make your leads and your elements more interesting as well. But if you just want to see some ear candy videos, you can also see the videos over here that shows how you can make ear candies to your songs. I hope you liked the video and I hope to see you in the next Abstrakt video. Ciao!